I've read hundreds of books. As an adult, mainly just nonfiction, from genres like self-help, psychology, manifestation, finance, and entrepreneurship. And yes, it's true. What they tell you is you can find the answers to almost anything you can ask in a book. But what they don't tell you is that 90 to 95% of the information is recycled information and really doesn't resonate with you at all. So most of the pages you read are worthless and a waste of time, so to speak. It takes a special kind of patience to really be able to sit down and sift through the information to find those gems. And that's why I crafted these top 5 books to help find your passion in 2024. And I got 2 bonus books at the end, so stick around. Also, I plan on dropping a series of other top 5s in these categories within the genres that I normally read, so be sure to subscribe to catch those at a later date. Without further ado, book number 1. So, short story, ever since 2020 COVID situation, I kind of been stockpiling my books. I always will buy them, give them away, lose them. But ever since 2020, I've been kind of trying to grow my library and keep these books and go back to them and revisit them and take notes and stuff like that. And one of the most interesting books that I probably read since then was The Third Door by Alex Banian. I never read a book of this length so quick. I probably read it in a week, and I was really inspired when I got done reading it. So let me read my notes on it. So what I have here is that it's about finding and fighting your way through adversity by any means necessary, not having to have everything figured out. By going after your goals and maneuvering through the grind, you will look up and notice that the passion helped drive you through times where other people may have gave up. There's lots of gems in this book. It's kind of telling his story and how he was able to get this book published. It was a great book, lots of praise. Won't be disappointed. Book number 2, Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. I'm gonna just start by reading off the back. It has praise from Kevin Hart, Robert Greene, which is one of my all-time favorite authors. If you know, you know. Steve Wozniak, that's the co-founder of Apple. Robert Kiyosaki, that's Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you ever heard of that book. And Brian Tracy. So heavy hitting list. This book speaks for itself. The title, you know, they say never judge a book by its title. By its cover. But Your Next 5 Moves, that's basically it. Basically, if you have a little inclination of what your passion might be, but you just don't know where to go from there, this book is it. Your Next 5 Moves, it kind of helps you map out what you need to be doing and how to approach it, and easy to digest steps. And it was very helpful. When I read it, sometimes I have to go back and reread it because I'm like, what step am I at? But it really helps. Let me read my notes from it. What I have here is, once you're already locked in and you think you have your passion somewhat figured out, but you don't know how to get there. Maybe you think you don't have all the tools or you don't have all the connections. This will break it down and help you take smaller steps and bites off of what you can handle and digest in smaller, easier to grasp steps. So like I said, all about strategy. A great book to read if you kind of know at least the direction of where you're headed. I would recommend to pick up Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. If you were paying attention on book number 2, Your Next 5 Moves, you notice I mentioned it had praise from Robert Greene. That's one of my favorite authors, the way he breaks stuff down. If you know 48 Laws of Power, he's the author of that. But this book right here, you can see it's been through a lot. Mastery. I even have some notes in here. This is a book that you can go back to and read different chapters along as you're in different spots along your journey. Just an all-around great book. It's not too much to say. Speaks for itself. I'll read my notes on it. So what I have here is Mastery is more of a book for any step of the journey, but it covers how the greats really mastered their craft and how you can. with lots of examples. Basically breaks it down to what your ultimate passion is. And once that's figured out, it guides and offers advice on how to be great at your life's purpose. And lots of nuggets of insightful information on locking in and basically giving the world the best you can since you are out here for your purpose. Master it, devote your life to it, and pass it on. Mastery by Robert Greene. Great book. Book number 4. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. If you know, you know. The title is a heavy hitter. You can just tell by the title of the book what it's about. It says here on the cover, more than 16 million copies in print worldwide. I believe it. But I picked this book up a couple years back. I seen it recommended a couple times. It was on the, I think it was on the Nipsey Hussle's recommended book list, book club that they started after he passed. And I really wanted to read it ever since I seen it on that list. I picked it up a couple years back, and I was on a trip when I read this. I read most of it on the flight, and then I got to the hotel, even was reading it then. So what I have written here is, this is more of a book to tap into the reason man has the obsession to find his purpose and why it will never go away or be fulfilled. It's an ongoing thing. And once you realize that, understand that, internalize that, you'll have an easier time readjusting and realigning along the path. So that's a good one when you kind of like feel like you're at the end of the road. It just gives perspective. Like, a man's whole purpose is to search for meaning. It's to, whether it's your career, and then once you pass your career point where you kind of settle in and you're fine and content with that, then it may be family, and then it may be back to career at some point. So that's a real heavy hitter, real easy to read. So make sure to pick up Man's Search for Meaning. So book number 5. This is probably my favorite book on the list. The Alchemist. Man, this is one that I never lost. I had this for a long time. This is just one of my all-time favorite books. Never lost it. Keep it with me. Read it multiple times. It's basically just a fable that tells a story about a man on his journey over in the Middle East. You can read this probably 100 times and catch a different epiphany that's life-changing each time you read it. When I first read it, I had to keep putting it down because I would catch something and be like, yo, that speaks to me. And then I would stop and go put in some work, and then I come back to the book. So I remember that when I left it, like, it helped me out. And then I keep reading maybe another chapter or two and be like, oh, what about this? And then every time I read it, it's like I'm catching new gems. So definitely my all-time favorite, at least top 5 book I ever read, The Alchemist. All right, so my 2 bonus books. Like I said earlier, a couple of these books I seen on the Nipsey Hussle book club or whatever. You can Google it, where it talks about the books that he recommends. And I think he did an interview about him and Lauren London were reading it, and it seemed pretty deep. I've read this about twice, and now I just pick chapters and reread certain chapters. But this is basically a spiritual book. This may be a great book to read maybe with your girl or wife, and kind of read together and talk about together. It's a very deep book. Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. I'll read my notes on that. So my notes is kind of what I already said, but despite the title, this is also a good book for women to understand their man. You can read as a couple and discuss and create a dialogue around it. It touches on a role a real man plays. Man has a complete purpose to uphold in his family dynamic. This breaks it down play by play. So that's a good one to read with your significant other. And last but definitely not least, another Robert Greene book, If you're not a big reader, I would recommend this book over all the other ones. It's the easiest to read and dissect, and it's called The Daily Laws. What the title says is that it's 366 meditations on power, seduction, mastery, strategy, and human nature. Basically, it's broken down so each day has a chapter. So you can read just one chapter a day. And if you miss a day or a week or a month, it doesn't really matter. You can just pick it back up on whatever the date is that day. So if you wake up in the mood to read, or if you get on a good stride and it's your birthday month or something like that, you can just pick it up, not have to worry about what was before that, and still get some knowledge. Real good book. So anyway, you can pick this book up, and basically you don't have to really be a reader, but you can just read any day you feel kind of motivated to read. I'll read my notes on it. It says, this is a great book for people who aren't avid readers. It's a chapter a day format, so each chapter covers a unique part of human nature in a short essay. Each chapter covers a unique part of human nature in a short, easy, straight to the point. The Daily Laws. So thank you for sticking around and watching the video. If you got anything from it, please be sure to like, help out the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.